All right,
Thank
so
you.
um, my name is Karen Emmer and I am the Financial Aid Director here. And tonight we're going to be talking about the basics in financial aid. So we'll be talking about the federal student aid, state aid, institutional aid, and scholarships. And I will answer questions about financial aid, who can get financial aid, how much can I get, how to apply, what happens next, and some common mistakes. So financial aid is any money coming to you for college. It can be grants, which you don't pay back. It can be loans. It could be work study, which is usually a job at the school or the community. And we've talked a lot about scholarships. And that can be local and regional, and it can be specific for the degree that you're going into. When you fill out the FAFSA, you do have to be a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen. So we used to call it a green card, and now it's an A card. You have to have one of those to be able to come into to fill out the FAFSA. You also have to have a high school diploma or GED, and you have to be in an eligible degree program. So for financial aid, the program has to be at least 16 credits, and the Department of Ed has to have agreed to that it is an eligible program. You have to have a social security card. When you fill the FAFSA out, you are going to put your social security number on the FAFSA with your birth date and your name, and all of that has to match. And if you are a male and you're over 18, you do have to sign up for selective service. And when you're in school, you actually have to make satisfactory progress. So that means that you have to pass your classes that you're in. You have to have at least a C average, and you need to pass at least 67% of what you attempt to take. So you can't drop all your classes all the time. When we talk about how much money you can get for financial aid, what we're talking about is a formula, and it's the expected family contribution. That is when you fill your FAFSA out, it goes to the Department of Ed, and they kind of tell all the schools what your EFC is, what your expected family contribution is. The lower that number, the more Pell you get, up to 5,000. Then each school has its own cost of attendance. That's based on the tuition, the fees, room and board, transportation. And so you can see each school would be different cost because they're in different areas and they charge different tuition. So what we do is we take the cost of attendance and we minus your EFC and any financial aid you get, and that's your financial need. You didn't think we would be doing math tonight, did you? So this year, and we're just going by what it is today. So financial aid changes all the time. So I'm going to say, as of tonight, this is what the information is, but the federal government hasn't completely done the budget, and the amount for Pell Grant could change. And so the maximum amount you can get is $6,345. A federal work study depends on you being able to get a job. So there has to be a job available, and then you also have to go on an interview and get it, and then it's a job. So you, however many hours you work, that's your federal work study. The reason it is financial aid is that the federal government is paying part of your salary. And then all students are eligible for some kind of student loans. So there's subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Subsidized meaning the government pays the interest while you're in school, and unsubsidized meaning the interest is added on to that loan while you're in school. None of these loans do you pay until you drop below half-time, graduate, or stop coming to school. But it is a loan, so loans you pay back. There's also a Parent Plus loan. So if you're going to a school and you get the Pell Grant and your Stafford loans and you still owe tuition, your parents can take out a loan. Now, this would be based on their credit. So they have to actually do a credit check, and your parents have to decide they want it. So they have to actually sign that they really want the amount that they're asking for. Now, if they don't have the credit and they apply for a loan and you are a dependent student, you are actually eligible for some extra unsubsidized loans. So when you're looking at scholarships and how much financial aid you can get, you need to look at your programs. So you need to do your research on what are those scholarships looking for, just like we heard before. And you also want to talk to your financial aid office. When we talk about financial aid and deadlines, it's a lot earlier than you think. Just because you're going to school in August, the deadlines could be in November, December, January. And one of the things that I talk about right now is called a priority deadline. So if you're going to universities that is not Cochise College, you need to go find out what the priority deadline is. So NAU priority deadline for freshmen coming in is actually February 15th, or not February, November 15th. So you're running out of time to fill your FAFSA out and hit that deadline for NAU. When you're looking for scholarships, you want to think about what really truly makes you unique. And you want to look at all of those areas in your neighborhood. So are you part of a religious group? Are you going into certain degrees? All of those kind of things. And then look to see if there's scholarships. One of the best places to look for scholarships if you're still in high school is your high school counselor. They get scholarship applications all the time, and you'll want to go talk to them about what's available. So how do you apply for financial aid? So what you want to do is go to FAFSA.gov. So you do not want to go to FAFSA.com or .net. They are going to charge you $75, $85, $90 for a free application. And you're going to be giving all of your information to a company that can't actually sign your FAFSA for you. So you're going to have to log on to the FAFSA website and sign it anyway. So make sure that you're going to FAFSA.gov. All of the federal government website are .gov. If it is not .gov, they will ask you for money. All right, we talked about AZ grants. And the other place you can look, especially at our school, if you go on to our website, How to Play for College, in the middle of the page, and you click on scholarships, we have a whole list of scholarships that are available here at Cochise. Now, arguably, the hardest part of filling out the FAFSA is your ID. However, you have to set it up first. So you're going to set up your ID. It's how you sign the FAFSA. The reason it's hard is that you're going to need to have an email address that is different from your parents and not your high school email address, because you'll want that email when you fill the FAFSA out next year. This is where the federal government is going to send information to you. So you want to set up an email. You also have to set up questions, security questions, and it's helpful if you have a cell phone number. The federal government is going more and more to a single app kind of thing. You actually can fill the FAFSA out on an app on your phone. And it will keep track of your loans and all of that kind of stuff. So the ID is what takes the longest, because you have to set up your password, your security numbers, and all of that kind of stuff, and then wait to get a text from them. And sometimes this is actually a little frustrating to students. Once you set that up, please keep it somewhere. So a lot of times when I go out to high schools, they have set up their IDs the day before, and now they can't remember what it is. So please put it in your phone somewhere that, take a picture of it, put it somewhere where you're not going to forget it, because this, if you have to have it reset, it takes 48 hours for that to happen. And you have to go through a lot of security questions that you might not remember and all of that kind of stuff. And it's your signature. So don't be telling everybody what your password is. They have you sign something that you're not going to tell anybody, but it's kind of like your bank login. When you fill your FAFSA out, you're going to have to gather some information. The information you need is your Social Security number. Now, this is a common mistake. You put your Social Security number and you put your birth date wrong, or you put your name wrong to it, and it's going to reject the finance of your FAFSA. So you really want to be careful about your Social Security number for you and your folks. If your parents don't have a Social Security card, that's fine. Just put all zeros in that part of the FAFSA. You will have to print the signature page at the end and have your parents sign it and mail it in. So if your parents don't have a Social Security number, it is actually going to take you a little longer to fill the FAFSA out, because you'll have to send that in, and then the Department of Ed will have to match that up with your FAFSA. So it takes another couple of weeks. So make sure that you get your FAFSA going a little bit earlier. You're going to need the tax information for you and your folks, W-2s, and if your parents are part of the military, you're also going to need to know what their housing allowance and those kind of things are. You will also need to know what your driver's license number is. And if you're coming to Cochise College, our school code is 001072, and it will say Sierra Vista no matter where you're going. If you're going to another school, you can begin to type in what the school's name is, and it will pop up, and you can choose the school that you're going to. You can start filling the FAFSA out on October 1st. You will have to fill a new FAFSA out every year. So you don't get to do one and be done. You have to do one every year. It will ask you for your FAFSA ID. And if later on you're planning to take loans, you will need your FAFSA ID to sign those loans also. So that's why I say you need to keep it somewhere. You can, if you have any problems at all, you can set up a Zoom or a face-to-face meeting here at Cochise, and we will help you. If it's after hours, you can actually call the FAFSA, and they will help you too. And then you want to log out, especially if you're filling this out at schools or here at our school. You want to log out, because if you don't, then somebody else can go in and see all your information. Then you will get, in about 10 days, depending on what time of year it is, a confirmation letter that says that your FAFSA has been processed. You will want to look at that information to make sure that it's correct. And if it's not, you'll want to log back into the FAFSA and fix it. Now, 1/3 of our students get selected for verification. It kind of keeps everybody honest. So any information that you put on the FAFSA, the financial aid office can ask for. So they can ask for taxes, they can ask for your social security card, they can ask for ID. If you say that you were the court or in legal guardianship, all of those things the financial aid office can ask for. So gather that paperwork up just in case the school that you're going to was going to ask for that information. Now, you can put up to 10 schools, school codes on your FAFSA, so you can actually begin to look at how much is it going to cost to go to schools and compare their offers and see how much the gap is. So is there a gap between what financial aid is offering you and what the tuition and fees and room and board is? It's not over once you fill the FAFSA out. You still need to contact the school that you're going to's financial aid office and find out if there's any paperwork that you need. So make sure that you find out and call them and check on it. So that's the saddest thing is when August classes start and students come and say, hey, I filled my FAFSA out and we're looking for 15 documents that now the student has to find and we have to fill out. Here's our common mistakes. The name doesn't match the Social Security. So if you have a nickname, it's not your nickname. It's the name that's on your Social Security card and it's your birth date. So that's the common mistake. Also, if you're a male, you have to sign up for selective service. The easiest way to not have mistakes is to use the tool retrieval for your taxes. And what will happen is there will be a little button that says, hey, you want to go out to the IRS? If you push that, it will go out to the IRS, retrieve your taxes and put that information on your FAFSA for you. Then if you do that and not click into any of those fields that they have put information, you won't have to bring taxes into the financial aid office. However, if you even click in to where it says anything that's been populated, the Department of Ed will say they had a potential to change that information and now I would have to gather taxes from you. So don't click into any of those fields. The number in household is also a common mistake. It's not how many family members you have. It's how many people your parents are actually supporting 51%. Usually it's your siblings and your parents and your siblings under 24. Now, if you do have a sibling that is going to university or some other community college, you can count them if they're not 25 years old yet. Another problem is when you fill the FAFSA out, you skip what you're looking for, your associate's degree or bachelor's degree. Here at Cochise College, you can only ever be looking for a certificate or associate's degree. If you say undecided, you're actually not eligible for financial aid. It is for degree seeking. The other big mistake with that is that you say that you already have a bachelor's degree because you think the question is asking, are you working on your first bachelor's degree? That's not the question. The question is, do you have your first bachelor's degree before you start school? The answer to that, if you're coming right from high school, is no, you don't have that. Once you have a bachelor's degree, you're no longer eligible for Pell Grant. So you want to make sure that you don't click those by mistake. And there's several places. So on the first one, it will say, are you looking for your bachelor's degree, or do you have your bachelor's degree before you start this program? The other one is if you say that you're in a graduate degree program, that's for master's and PhDs, not for an associate's or bachelor's degree. Now, if your parents are divorced, we don't put both parents on there. We put the parent that is supporting you 51%. So if that's your mother and she has remarried, it's your mother and your stepfather, not your mother, your stepfather, your parent, your father and your stepmothers. Not all of those people. It's just the parents that are supporting you. And then you need to make sure that you sign the FAFSA and that your parents sign the FAFSA. If you submit it without a signature, it will still process, but it will reject, and I won't be able to do anything with it, and then we'll need you to go back in and sign it. You will not be able to go back in and sign it until the FAFSA has processed all the way through once. All right, so that was a lot of information. Do you have any questions right now?
I was wondering if you can apply for scholarships if you're not quite sure what you want your career to be like.
Well, it depends on the scholarship you're looking for. So there are specific scholarships for the degrees that you're looking for. So you'll probably be able to find those kind of scholarships, but there are scholarships out there for, so for instance, I used to be in Utah, that's where the trains came together. So if you had any family member that was working on the trains, you could get a scholarship because the trains had set up scholarships for that. So you don't necessarily have to know what you want to do, but that's helpful. You just have to know what makes you truly unique.
If you were to sign a scholarship up saying that you did want to do a certain thing, but it changed later in life, would that be okay?
Well, here's the problem. Well, it is okay unless you get the scholarship and then come fall, you say, hey, I don't want to be that anymore. And the scholarship says specifically you have to be in that program. Then I have to call the donor and say, hey, they're not in this program, or I have to call you and say, hey, you're not in that program. What's going on? So if you do a whole year of it first, and then next year you change your mind, that's okay. But if the scholarship is specifically for you to be a welder or an engineer and you don't start in that program, and it tells me in the letter you have to be in that program, then I can't give it to you.
Karen, we had a couple of questions in the chat. One of the questions was if you, okay, so let me scroll. It says, if they live on their own, can they leave their parents off of financial aid? And so the answer to that was only if you're married over the age of 24 in the military or incapacitated, risk of homelessness, emancipated, right?
If you're an emancipated minor,
yes.
Or if you have a child that you're supporting 51%. So those are the dependency questions that the right off the FAFSA. So if you can't say yes to one of those, the Department of Ed says you need to have your parents' information on there. Because a lot of times students go away to college, so they're not really living with their parents anymore. So that's not really an indicator that they're not helping you. Is there any other questions that we have?
Candace had a question in the chat too. It said, my son will turn 18 in August. Does that affect anything for college?
Well, there's that selective service piece that he has to sign up for selective service. But other than that, no. All right, is there any other questions before we call it a night?
I just had one quick last thing. I was wondering, like, how likely you are to get a scholarship? Like, if if it's a thing multiple people sign up for and only there's one person who qualifies, or if there's like multiple people who are able to qualify for one scholarship?
Well, that depends on the scholarship. So for instance, we have a senior grad scholarship, and anyone graduating from a Cochise County high school will get it. But if we're looking at the more competitive scholarship, then it would depend on those essays that Becca was talking about and your leadership activities that Becca was talking about. So remember when she said you needed to be specific about what you did? I used to read scholarships for a scholarship that was for $10,000, and it was interesting to me that students didn't think they had leadership opportunities, and they might have been their band leader or in debate or some kind of leader in their church, and so they wouldn't put that down. Well, if I have 100 people looking for 10 scholarships, and you don't put down some of the requirements, then I'll probably push you to the side and choose somebody that has all of those requirements. The other thing that I looked at when I was looking when I was reading the scholarships was, just like Becca said, did you make yourself personable? So did you make yourself pop from the crowd? So one of my favorite things was this girl that wrote an essay about red shoes. And I thought, this is either going to be just really sad or this is going to be great, and I began to read it. And what she talked about is that her grandmother always wore red shoes, and that when she asked her grandmother about it, her grandmother said, life's too short not to have fun. And then she went and talked about how you have to work hard in life, but you always have to see the bright things. Well, to me, that stood out, because what I was looking for in a student that was telling me a story about themselves was not only did you make yourself a person to me, but also somehow got across to me that no matter how hard it was in school, that you were going to move forward. You weren't going to quit. So when she talked about these red shoes and her grandmother and how, you have to have fun in life and all of that kind of stuff, she was also talking about how her grandmother gave her a work ethic and how never give up. And so for me to invest $10,000 in a student that already understood to never give up was high, even though it wasn't part of the criteria. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to share my contact information one more time so you can write it down. And then thank you all for coming. I appreciate it.